find a more propagandized headline as this one. It's actually so ridiculous that I thought it was a joke, but it's not. And one thing we know for certain is these people are relentless. They're going to keep beating the drum of multiculturalism and diversity as our strength until we say no. If you're new here, do me a favour, maybe hit like, subscribe and share if any of it makes sense. And if you want to help out the channel by becoming a member or jumping over onto my Patreon, I'd appreciate that as well. Here we go with this absolute humdinger. Muslims in Ireland living in fear of far-right extremists. I know, you gotta pick yourself up off the ground after hearing that absolute ludicrous headline. Like ludicrous. Anybody with a brain knows that that is just retarded. Irish Muslim leaders say congregations are on edge and living in fear following revelations of an alleged plot by far-right extremists to bomb a mosque. Imams told the Irish Examiner that government must urgently lead a national campaign to tackle the spread of hatred, to reassure targeted communities that they are safe, and to prevent possible attacks on places of worship and centres for asylum seekers. It comes as Gardaí and PSNI are continuing a cross-border investigation into the emergence of violent right-wing extremist organisations identified as the Irish Defence Army. These organisations are considered small, with some 8 members. It is understood that all of them are known to authorities. I'm going to give you a little second for that to marinate. 8 members of the far right. Now, normally when the mainstream talk about the far right, they're talking about 4 or 5 Irish lads going around with their phone documenting what's happening in these human trafficking centres, and maybe like 20 lads that throw stones or something. That's the far right, I guess. It's a bit more sinister than that, because what they want to do is they want to paint you, me, and every critical thinker, every person you come across on the street that says the same thing, as in, isn't our town turned to shit? Isn't this city terrifying now with all the foreign people lurking about? And we're not even getting into the conversation of what this is doing to Irish lives and ripping away the futures of young people who can't rent a house or buy a house. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about generalizations. We're talking about people from very affluent areas all the way down to working class and the middle class. They're a little bit retarded. They're the people that sip the coffee like and cry for Palestinians and things like that. They don't give a flying fuck about Irish people, so you would never see them wearing a badge on their shirt or holding a flag up for the Irish people. Absolutely not. So let's forget about them. But normal people know that we are under attack, we're under threat, and every single thing that the government do here in terms of gaslighting, Muslims are living in fear of the far right extremists. 8 people? What's the number of Muslims in Ireland at the moment? Is it 70,000 plus? Probably way more than that. A number I think I saw on Google, which is so nefarious. Half the news stories I'm going to pull up here, I couldn't even find them. I had to go deep dive to try find them. That's how hidden they are. Imagine the normal person who doesn't even know to look for them. Insanity. So let's run through how the Muslims in Ireland are terrified of 8 far-right members. Every single article I'm going to bring up here has been fact-checked, and they are of course Muslim men living in Ireland, off of the state, off of your tax money, just so as you know. We'll run through them quick. Dublin stabbing, man charged with attempted murder. 50-year-old Muslim man has been charged with attempted murder of 3 children in a stabbing attack outside a primary school in Dublin last month. Father of 3 who raped a woman on a beach loses appeal. The number of arrests related to Islamic extremism in Ireland has grown in recent years. There has been 30 arrests of suspected jihadis by Gardaí in the last 5 years. Absolutely ridiculous number, and you know it and they know it. Again, more gaslighting. Hassan Bilal admits to funding Islamic State at Irish court. A man living in the Republic of Ireland has pleaded guilty to providing funds to the so-called Islamic State group. Just your general 26-year-old lad from Waterford, sending his social welfare payments over to the Middle East to fund terrorism. Normal enough. Muslim man found guilty of raping a woman with Down syndrome. Let that one sink in. We have this absolute gem who I'm sure was living in fear, Joseph Palani. He was jailed for life for the murder of Aidan Moffat and Michael Snee in Sligo. This one was a particularly disgusting attack. Not only did he kill these 2 lads, I believe the heads were removed of these 2 boys because they were gay. And I'm sure that everybody knows that when you hold up that Palestinian flag on a Saturday at 3 o'clock outside your local Supermax, that the people that you're advocating for advocate for this. Removal of a head, dumped off the top of a building, absolutely fine. It's part of their doctrine. It's part of their religion. Concerns are raised over alleged financial irregularities and links between extremist ideology at Dublin Mosque. A large security operation was in place at the Islamic Cultural Centre of Ireland following an altercation which prompted the closure of the Clonskeagh premise. And again, the backstory of these lads is they're collecting money, social welfare money from the Irish state. They're also fundraising for Palestine, believe it or not. I think the number in the last year is something like 2.5 million they've raised and sent overseas to the Middle East to fund Islamic terrorism. These are the Dublin lads that are terrified in the mosque. Now remember the original story. They're terrified of 8 young fellas with tracksuits and tackies. Man accused of stabbing Garda with terrorism and arson at Conor McGregor's pub in Dublin. Covered this story, you can go back and check out my video on this one. She was swept under the rug. So the Muslims in Ireland are in such a state of fear because of the Irish people that they are able to run up behind Irish police officers, stab them repeatedly whilst screaming Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar! And in the same week burn down Conor McGregor's pub, and we barely get a news story about it. And we definitely don't get a news story about the Irish people being terrified of the Muslim community. Of course, it's the inversion of that. How absolutely ludicrous. Another particularly disgusting crime from last week. A Ukrainian boy in an IPAS centre, I believe, suffered more than 100 stab wounds during an attack as a teen was arrested on suspicion of murder. Of course, this is all based in religion, in the Islamic faith. And again, if you don't support this sort of ideology or these type of people and their relocation from the Middle East to Ireland, you're some sort of far-right lunatic loony or something. And of course, we had a Muslim man who appeared in court last week for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in Dublin. Of course, he needed a translator when he appeared in court, and again, it was a cry for help. We had the Muslim man in the airport who stabbed a German man, another cry for help. And if we jump over here, we have the AI doing an overview of crime statistics in Ireland perpetrated by Muslim men. And what was very interesting about this is that it only covered a 3-year period. And a lot of what it covers in here, it actually explains to you that there is no news articles that can be found online. These are violent crimes, they're violent assaults, they're sexual assaults, they're drugs and organised crime. Of course, these are documented within the CSO statistics, but no articles about them. And these are just the ones that showed up here. Operation Tara. Garda Anti-Drug Initiative arrested 50 Muslim men in Dublin for cocaine trafficking. Okay, interesting. No articles to back that up, but it is logged in the crime statistics. Nigerian Muslim gang leader sentenced to 12 years for heroin distribution in Cork. Cool. Can't really find an article about that. I'm sure he was terrified of the 8 lads though. Petty thefts and burglaries. Of course, that's going to be through the roof with these boys. No point even talking about it. You can just see it there. Muslim men, Syrian men, Middle Eastern men. Cool. 1,200 sexual offences annually with foreign nationals, including Muslim majority countries, involved in 15% of the convictions. This is just from 2023 to 2025. Disgraceful. In 2023, there was a 22-year-old Afghan asylum seeker described as a Muslim. These are all high-profile cases of Muslim men perpetrating heinous acts in the Irish state, not reported in the mainstream media. So that's why it's the most ludicrous news story that you would ever hear in your life, that the Muslim community of Ireland are terrified of the Irish far right. Are you joking me?